So I changed the title of the talk a little bit. It doesn't really matter. I'm going to do things a little bit differently, but this is sort of going to be the direction that I had is, do you even need video in your organization? I would say yes, arguably, obviously, but you know, the frequency and the quality are factors, right? So again, if you got to get up, we've got a couple minutes here as we kind of like let more people come in. We're going to watch this video. I'm going to just talk through it, talk over it. This is a case study done by the fast food chain Sonic. I don't know if you're familiar if they have that out here. They created, cool. So they created this campaign, turning their shakes from elongated shape into a square for Instagram. This video is a little old, from like 2016 or something, when Instagram was huge for having square format. So they worked with influencers, they worked with Instagram, the actual Instagram app, so that you could order a shake, you know, from them through Instagram. I think it's going to come up right here, where it was like a little button on the actual, yeah, right there. So you could order it directly. I think there's a little bit more of a gimmick because it's like geolocation. I think that's impossible. But the point that I'm making with this video is Sonic had something that is too big for the frame of the place that they're posting, right? And what they did was they looked at that and they said, what can we do to inspire people? Again, they used influencers to engage with our content. And for those of you who are just walking in, don't worry, this is supplemental for people who are sitting here. I just wanted to give them something to watch. But you didn't miss much. Because the point that I'm trying to make with this video is that this company took something that they had and transformed it for the space that they were in. And I want us to be thinking about that. What product do we have, and how can we look at the landscape and fit it into that landscape to best engage with our audience? Okay, just something to think about. Another tidbit for as people are coming in. I don't want you just sitting here silently, or you know, I wanted to give you something to do. Okay, so I want to do things just a little bit differently because this particular piece of your marketing is so dynamic in that there's going to be a range, right? People are just starting to people are experts. I don't want to come up here and talk to you about my history. Okay, here's 40 minutes of everything that I've ever done. And I don't want it to be a case where I'm going through really high-level things and you're missing the point. So what I want to do is kind of switch things up a little bit. I'm going to talk for a little bit, and I'm going to have questions, and then we're going to do just a little quick, brief activity at the end. Okay? Couple housekeeping things. Like I said, there's going to be a section for questions to save Brian from running around to all the people and you starting your question and everybody. I put a mic there in the middle of the room. So if you have a question, please go over there and ask your question because I want to make sure that everybody can hear you. That said, I'm sure you all have questions maybe in your head or maybe as I'm talking about something. If you could write it down or you know, whatever, if you don't need to write it down, that would be really helpful so that we can have something, get the wheels turning. I have some things that I think you might want to know, but I would love it if you could write your questions down and then go ask when the time comes, okay? So, quick survey so I can get a temp check on the room because, again, I don't want to be talking to a bunch of experts about beginner level stuff or vice versa. Okay, so why are you here? Can I get show of hands, beginners? Here to learn? Good, good, good. Okay, intermediate, here to refine. All right, okay, great. Expert, here to judge. Okay, we got one. All right, respect. Beginners, hands again. Okay. If we could, if you're comfortable, do you mind going to intermediates, hands up? Do you mind switching? If you don't see an intermediate at your table, maybe you go to an intermediate's table, because that's the kind of the largest group. So if you're comfortable, beginner, going to there, because my hope is that, yes, I have some knowledge, but I know there's a lot of wisdom in this room that we can help one another, and I don't want to, I'd rather have you connect at your table and say, oh my gosh, thank you, or whatever, ask a question that couldn't get asked here, okay? So if you're comfortable, you've got that minute here. Struggles you're having. I'm assuming you're not struggling with gear if you're intermediate, but who's struggling with gear? Audio, technical stuff, nobody, great. Content, what to even post, okay? You don't have enough time, okay? Some of you, okay, we'll get to that. What type of content are you making? Is it a lot of event promo? No. Testimonials, okay, that kind of, congregational focused, you know, oh, here's our mission, that kind of thing. Okay, is somebody comfortable just telling me, because it seems like I didn't cover those in the last two, like the issues you're having, just really quickly, pain points?
Sisters don't want to be on camera.
Got it. Next.
Like showing the faces.
Got it, okay. Somebody in the back, go ahead, yes, sir.
Making content that meets internal and external needs.
Okay.
Audience-wise.
Okay, so we have sisters that want to be on camera, they're concerned about privacy, or maybe other people in our organization are concerned about privacy, and then kind of meeting all of our audiences and maybe not doubling up the work? Or is it just getting the right content to those audiences?
I think in communications a lot, you're producing stuff for internal use for, you know, your organization.
Right.
But you're also trying to produce content to put out there to people who might not know anything about your
Yeah.
organization.
So it's like the variety of content that you would probably have to cover. Sure. Okay, so again, get your questions ready. Sounds like you're already ready with those. I just want to talk about the importance of video, but it sounds like you're all very well versed and know that video's super duper important. Here's the dawn of video right here. And then anybody know who this is or what this clip is? That kid? Somebody got it? First video on YouTube is that kid right there. And then this is what video looks like now. Video is not just prioritized on the apps, it's prioritized across the internet. When you search something, it's your first search a lot of times. So just kind of like where we came from. This was the beginning of social media, you know, for YouTube, and then where we're at now. Okay, so again, quick slide about how are you telling a story? Because what I see a lot of times, I know that we see a lot of times, it's like, here's a big, long, super introduction of what this is going to be, and then it's like maybe it gets there, just really rambling, right? So I'm assuming that you know how to tell a story, beginning, middle, end. You must have these things, right? We know it's important to hook our audience, and I feel like a lot of times what I see is you've got the content, but you're not starting with that hook. You're not putting that attention on the first microsecond. We're not talking about 5 seconds. Microseconds. You have to immediately tell me what is this about and then deliver on that. So an example that I have is from MoMA, their Instagram account. This is, she starts it immediately, and so it's a little quiet. So I want you to pay attention. If you can't hear, I'll go back.
Let's brush up on your art terms. In the early 1920s.
She starts with, let's brush up on your art terms. Immediately telling you what is this going to do. Not, here, look at these, look at this
Let's
mural,
brush up
look
on
at
your
these
art
paintings,
terms.
right? Which it could
In
have
the
been,
early
or, oh, hey, look, we
1920s,
have
the
this
Mexican
display,
government
right?
commissioned
No,
artists to make art
hey,
that would present.
person that is interested in art, that's really interested in art, wants to know, I want to improve myself with this video, and I'm going to do that by explaining what this is, right? So their content was, okay, we have these huge murals, what can we do with this? And they sat there and they thought, oh, well, here's our audience, they want to know this specific thing, or here's a way to engage them, and they do that immediately. So spending time thinking, okay, I have this event that I want to attract people to, how is that, one of the talks yesterday, Thumbstoppable guy said, you know, what's in it for me? And really spending a lot of time, drain yourself to what is going to attract people immediately. Like this ad from Postmates. So I hate ads. I hate them. I know this is what we're doing, but I hate ads. I'll do everything in my power to get away from ads, but this one got me. Because I would see this woman's head, and then like, I'm gonna click on it right now, and you'll see like movement, and it's so weird, and it got me immediately. And again, another one starts right away, so listen, let's hear. Postmates. Oh, you can't hear it. Hey Greg, I'm gonna click it again, can you turn it up a little bit? It's super quiet, because the person whispers. Ready? Postmates.
This is your brain
Super
on
weird,
barbecue.
super creepy. What is this? So, I know we don't have really anything like this. Like, we're not going to make anything like this. Yeah. Sister's head splitting in half with a barbecue rib coming out of it. Okay, I'm not expecting that. But the moment example, I think, does work because we have things that are a little bit more aligned to that. We've got things, you know, our archives, for example, you know, just to kind of mirror that example. So, but immediate hook. I hate ads. I scrolled past this ad so many times, but finally, I clicked on it because it was so weird. Okay, so the thing that's important is telling the right story, right? Not just like telling a story or putting a bunch of content out there, which I feel like we do a lot. Telling the right story. Turning that we have a lot of information, a lot of time it's easy to get focused on, okay, well I've got this thing and I've got 10 million other things I'm trying to do, so how am I gonna figure out how to tell the story in a dynamic way, especially if I don't have a content. I'm hearing from a number of people, I've just been kind of asking this question, what would be interesting, what's important for you to tell, right? And the issue that I didn't anticipate is that you don't have the content. It's not there. And as you mentioned here in the front, that sisters don't want to participate. So that can be hard if you don't even have a what, right? If you don't even have content, how do you turn that into a why? So we can figure that out. Again, I'm assuming you know the types of video content that exists, but I was trying to cater to a broad audience, so these are the different types of videos, and there's probably more, but this kind of like encapsulates all the buckets. You might be thinking, well, I'm not going to do a live stream because maybe I don't have a sister that could be on camera, right? I could do some behind the scenes and event promo stuff, but interviews would be tough, and so ideally you'd have all this kind of stuff, but a way that we're seeing a lot of people kind of, if they don't have that content, using user-generated content. If somebody's going to your events, you have, hey, can you share that with us? And we kind of repost it as a way to broaden the reach of an event that we had. Okay, so I want to particularly highlight this because maybe to just kind of assuage you to think, well, yes, this is very important. Video is very important. Hooking people is very important. And it is a great way to connect with our audience, right? Video might be the best way to connect with our audiences right now because it's just being favored across the internet, like I mentioned, right? That doesn't mean that it is the best. That doesn't mean that you should spend all of your time focusing on it or drain your resources creating videos, because ultimately it doesn't matter because people are scrolling so quickly and their memories are so short. Just think about the way that you're consuming these things. Can you recall the videos? Sure, I'm sure there's some standouts, but day to day, this doesn't really matter. It doesn't matter as much as the entirety of the story that you're telling, which is really what I want to focus on. Where does video as a marketing tool fit into your overall marketing? And you have to be realistic about what you have, obviously. And so if you don't have a lot, right, you don't have sisters that are willing to participate and be engaged, or they're afraid of privacy issues, right? figuring out, okay, well, this is going to be our one video for the month or for the quarter, right? And it's going to be really stellar, and we're going to spend a bunch of time and energy on that, but we're only doing it once, so it's not that big deal, right? And just being mindful of where that fits into your plan is what I want to really focus on. Okay, so before we get into questions, I do have some of my own, and then I want to see, show of hands, does anybody know what the term batching, content batching? I heard somebody call it meatloafing or something. It's essentially where you take a large piece of content and then you break it up into smaller pieces of content. So for example, I mentioned, let's say you're going to do one big video a month. And it's going to be an interview with, your oldest sister, right? Instead of saying, okay, well, we're going to do a video, and then we're going to have somebody come out and do a blog, and then we're going to maybe do a post about this, you sort of funnel everything through that, right? So if you're going to go and record an interview with somebody, well, you just take the transcript, and then you convert that into a blog, and then you take that, and you break the interview into smaller parts, and then, okay, so I want to focus on that as our little activity at the end, kind of working in your groups, and figure out, okay, where could we possibly do this content batching? The thing to start with there is, how does this fit in with your content calendar, your overall content message? So we really have to be moving away from the idea that video is very important. Obviously, video is very important, we know that, because it's being prioritized across the internet. Is it a better delivery system every single time? Maybe not. Maybe, like I was telling you, when I search Google for a how-to on something, I like to read it. I don't want to watch a 10-minute long video for some little piece of information that I have, but it's being prioritized, so I have to do a little bit more work. So it's maybe better to have a little bit of both, right? Our audience is, I know in Sisters of St. Joseph and Orange, we're sort of seeing our General Superior is calling people post-literate. We're in this post-literate age where people don't want to read, I don't think she meant that people can't read, but that they just want to consume something, just have it wash over them as opposed to having to sit there and read it out. So having both, though, is kind of the direction that we're headed. So if somebody is maybe hard of sight, it's like, hey, great, just listen to our General Superior deliver the same message. And if you want to read it, or if you got time, whatever. So we can move into questions now. I know this might be sort of daunting, but please, I want to provide as much value to you as possible in this time. I don't want to just be, again, like wasting your time. So I've got some questions prepared if nobody has any, but the mic is right over there. If you could get up and ask. Thank you. Brave first soul here.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, I have a question in terms of video. Is it better to share directly on Facebook, or like, because we have a YouTube channel and we put all our videos on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if by sharing the link on Facebook and then you leave Facebook to go to YouTube, or is it better to just post it on Facebook, but then the views don't count on YouTube? So how do you do that?
Yeah, so, excuse me. All of these platforms want you to stay on them, and so I know it's extra work, but you do need to post it every single time organically. Now, Facebook has like a back end where you could kind of post it to all their different, I'm sorry, I said Facebook, but it's like Meta, right? So they have Facebook, they have Instagram, they have all these other channels, right? So ideally, yes. And you just kind of have to develop a workflow that's, okay, just one more place that I'm uploading this thing, so that, yes, they don't count on YouTube, but those views count for your Facebook. And if the video is doing well on Facebook, maybe you can get people attracted to the next thing. Yeah.
Okay, I have two more questions.
Sure, absolutely.
One is, what's the sweet spot of length for, let's say, like a Facebook and Instagram? length of a video.
Sure. Pulling from our talk yesterday with the Thumbstoppable guy, we kind of know that stories and reels are being favored right now. So you could make the case that that is where you should put your content. Shorter, 15-second, 30-second, right? I think that has its place. But people that want the content, they're going to seek that out. And if it's good content, then they will, it doesn't matter the length. I don't know what kind of content that you're consuming, but I'll watch 4 hours of somebody talking about something. It really doesn't matter if the content is suiting me, if I feel like you're delivering value to me. Now, I think there's probably buckets, right? If you're making an event recap video that's 2 minutes long, people won't last more than 5 seconds, especially if there's no connection, right? If I scrolled past it and I don't know your community, you know, he gave the example of like some event where there was a bunch of children. I was like, I would skip that immediately, but somebody else might, like if it was your kid, so it's, it depends. Right now, the apps are favoring shorter content, but people are also sort of manipulating that because they'll just do really short content, but they'll just do lots of it. So it's kind of like long form, short form. You can kind of come in whenever you want, come out with you want. I know this doesn't really help, but that's kind of the answer. You got to test things. Oh, this did well. Let's try that again.
And then just one more question.
Sure.
In terms of your postings, do you create a whole entire new content for the different social media outlets, or do you use the same content for all of them?
Yeah, what we do is what I was mentioning, like content batching. So I'll, do the whole interview on YouTube, and then I'll do the shorter things. And depending on the piece of content, I'll do something for a story and then something else for a post. Because I know the audience, posts aren't being really valued anymore, but our audiences who are scrolling, they want something, maybe I'll just do an image and then link to it, or our audiences are a little bit more intentional, so you can be, it's gotta be sort of similar, but it depends, but I try to fill the channels as much as possible with the same piece of content that's maybe a little bit different. You could get away with not having it be, well, a lot of people do, in their story, they'll tag their post. So.
Thank you.
Of course. Something that I know that I'm also facing at our organization is getting the sisters to be excited about being on camera, right? I think one of the big struggles that we have is when they think, somebody's going to write something about me, or there's going to be photos of me, the thought is like, this is going to go in the newspaper kind of mentality, right? Because that's how people consume things. They don't realize that it's like, no one's going to see this photo of you. You don't have to worry. Your privacy concerned, yes, it'll be out there, but people are going to be whipping right past this stuff. And obviously, I would assume the common sense thing to do is, okay, who are your allies, right? That's what we've done. Find a group that we can really rely on. Push the people who are on the edge of that allyship. Say, come to them not as often, but understand that, hey, we're going to have to use you. And the thing that we're sort of bumping up against is that it seems like a lot of the women, they aren't internalizing that this is part of their job. Like, this is part of their ministry is promotion, basically, being on camera and how important that is. So there is a lot of education pieces, and again, with grace and understanding that you didn't sign up to be a spokesperson and an influencer, right? And that is kind of like an ongoing battle. And then there's a whole group that is just like, not gonna do it. We're associated with a hospital. Hospital came by and they said, oh, we need to do some interview and we want prayer. And so one of the sisters did a prayer at the beginning. And she looked at me and said, when you come calling, I won't be saying yes. So this is very good dynamic that we have. And I've never met this sister. I didn't even know that she knew who I was. But she knew enough to know that she would say no to me no matter what I was going to ask. So, and I think ultimately, you know, depending on where you're at, it's just like building that rapport. You know, I mentioned that, and we kind of know this, like video's great for connecting with your audience in a more, I was going to say real way, but video just has this place that it's kind of like of the moment right now, right? We like to connect with people in this way, and to have things explained to us is just nice. And so I think over time we can kind of show the sisters, it's not like the sisters aren't watching tons of videos, like that's what they're doing too. So again, I think when this is my assumption, that when they see this thing on their phone, there's some elevated status of this, but you know, who's to say? I can ask some of the sisters in the room. Another question I see.
This isn't a question, but boy.
Yeah, do you mind? Thank you. You want to try to sneak it in there?
Yeah. My question's about user-generated content. So I know what it is. I know I can ask a lot of you know, people who follow us or engage with our content a lot, but how do I consistently get people to want to submit things, want to share, and then get them to repost it?
Right.
Because I feel like there's a disconnect. Like they're like, yeah, okay, cool, but then they don't do it.
Sure. Well, I completely understand, right? If I'm coming to your event, I'm not going to do homework afterwards, you know what I mean, to post this on my own or send it to you, right? That would be my suggestion, though, is to say, hey, don't post this on yours and then we can reshare it. That would be fantastic. That's like the algorithms are favoring that more, right? But it would be maybe the compromise is get it from them right there in the event. If you know somebody that you've brought along or that you've invited, or maybe that's the thing, you invite somebody that you know is going to focus on that, get it from them right there, airdrop it, or maybe have your laptop so you can email it to yourself, or that way you're not having to rely on them. And ultimately, and this was something that a couple people mentioned, is that because our teams are really small, we don't have a dedicated person, so we're relying on the limited content that we have has to come from our users, right? The people that are coming to our attend our events. And then I have to put it together, and somebody mentioned that. I said, oh, well, that's easy, just give them a guide on what to do. And they said, you know, you want to, don't shoot vertically, shoot horizontally. And they remembered that halfway through the video. So it's like, it's like, no, God. And then imagine trying to edit that and put something cohesive together with that, you're toast. So that's why having short content is great. Here's 6 seconds. Sister, I know that's not great either. That's kind of the reality, right? And developing that relationship, and maybe you have a sister kind of elbow somebody, hey, I see you're here a lot. Do you mind? Could you possibly do this? Maybe there's an expanding that kind of ministry. Hey, this is super important. Here's how you can help. You're already coming. Just turn on your camera and make sure it's the right way. And then we're going to get it from you right away. Or maybe you have a device that you can hand to somebody. Say, hey, this is ours. So then you're not having to worry about getting it from them. It's like, no, put that down. Here, use mine. That's an option. Yes?
This might be a trick to getting sisters to go on camera. Don't go with the ask first. Have somebody, you or somebody, maybe not you because they know you're a video, but somebody that goes, hey sister, I'd like to hear your story. And just sit with them. And then after, if it's a story that the person that's listening would say, hey, that would really be cool, would you consider sharing just some of that for 3 minutes on a video? You might get them going on it. So you're not the ask isn't the video first. The ask is hear your story. And most people like to share their story.
Thank you, and I appreciate you waiting for me. Thank you to give us that. I heard somebody else mention having some allies. That sister's definitely going to say no to me, but she might say yes to her fellow sister, who she feels like maybe she can't say no to, or maybe it's a little more complicated. So again, finding that group, that team that's willing to, I know some people mentioned that they even have like a editorial team of sisters, so they can kind of be the ones that will do that on the ground work. Got to play a game here, you know? They don't want, they're wily. Yes?
I'm wondering, because we obviously are aging out, how, and the kids of today are hooked on videos, how do we make that bridge?
Okay.
And because I know you're from California, what are some of the trends of the videos that the Midwest can learn from?
Well, thankfully the internet is flat. You know what I mean? So I would say, hey, go to a beach. You know? So it's totally subjective. And thankfully you don't have to go to the beach if you don't have a beach near you. So in terms of, is there some Californian thing? Not really. Again, it's like food content does super well. So do events, but it's like you got food and events near you. You know what I mean? So it's, can you get a dynamic person to deliver this content? Which, to your other point about maybe the sister's a little older, maybe when I can get them, if I can get them, they said something and it's like, this is kind of good, but is my, okay. Again, going back to my point, do I even need this? And the reality being, this is just a tool that has to fit into your overall marketing. And if you don't have the right place for this tool, it doesn't matter how well produced it is or how many views it gets, right? Because you could hop on a trend or do something funny that's really attractive, but then it doesn't go anywhere afterwards because you don't have something else flowing from the rest of your marketing, right? So that is what I would suggest. Instead of trying to find, or maybe in addition to trying to find something that's going to be trendy and attractive to people, figuring out where does this tool live in our tool belt and how can we use it to better connect with our audience. Again, this might not exactly apply, but I think that because our audiences are, our communities are what they are, we have the opportunity to connect with people in a way that, Nike can't, right? If you had a campaign that connected sisters with actual users, and maybe video was a part of that, and it was like a monthly coffee thing, or it drove people. I got a specific invite from a sister to come to their event. Like it was like a video message or something. That's going to be much more powerful than just you posting, hey, we're doing this event, come to this. That's going to get lost right as soon as it gets posted. If you deputized your sisters and said, hey, we need you to make, let's say you have 80 sisters in your, each one of you is going to make one video inviting one person that and I understand that's a lot more resources because then you got to try to identify these people, but it's sort of like if you got 80 people there because you made 80 individual asks, that's way better than getting 10 people there because you made the broad ask. So again, I think figuring out where this tool lives is definitely the challenge more than how do I get better at video. I saw somebody, thank you.
Yeah. Our question is about like how much people are on different platforms. And so when you are batching content, is it always good just to put it out everywhere at the same time? Is there any value in taking those messages and letting them live a little longer across channels, or even repeating, or how would you handle that?
Yeah, I would refer to this slide because what I see a lot of times, or hear a lot from people, is that, oh, I'm afraid to post this again. People don't remember. They don't care. And if it was good the first time, it could be good again. Now, I'm not saying repost this stuff all the time, but if you got a lot of traction on something, or if it exemplifies some recurring thing, you can easily repurpose it. In terms of putting things everywhere, I think, again, like the guy said yesterday, it's important to know where your audience is, when they're online, and there's trends. You don't have to know exactly, you kind of know. And kind of see, hey, we're posting a lot at night and nobody's engaging with it, but then we post it in the morning, so you kind of adjust, and you should be trying to broaden, because I'm hopping from apps all the time, because it's like, okay, I'm done with that one, I'm over here now. So it doesn't always have to be the same exact content. Like, let's say you have a more thoughtful audience on Facebook, and you have a little bit more fun-loving kind of personality on your Instagram. So, you know, finding it could be the same content or from the same interview or from the same event, right? Like, let's say, you know, your general superior has some address to, you know, your audience, and then there was like some little gaffe that she had or said a little funny thing. I could see those, you know, fitting those two. I got Facebook over here, and here's our Instagram. Hey, if you want to learn more, go there. While you're thinking of other questions, something that got brought up, I'm blanking on it now. Let's talk about yours. The question was, it wasn't about knowing the audiences, right? Because I'm assuming you know, do you mind just hopping on the mic?
Yeah.
Thank you. Help me flesh this out. Oh, okay, as he's doing that, I'll tee up the next one. People wanted to know how to talk to your very bad video person about how to get better, and especially when they don't want to get better. Yes?
I've always worked with video and marketing, so I'm kind of new to communications, and I've noticed that a lot of projects I work on, it's hard to find, am I doing this to send out to employees, or am I doing this to send out to followers or to build my following, and is there actually a way to do that with the same content?
I see.
I am in conflict of no. I think internal content is internal content,
Sure.
and external is external. So my question was really just asking your opinion from your experience, and if you found a sweet spot, or how do you manage those needs?
So you're not having to double up effort, basically?
Yeah.
Do you have an example? Are we talking about, like, because I'm trying to think, like, the stuff that we would, a lot of times it's like sensitive, so I wouldn't ever, the changes that are happening, give me an example, please. Because I'm drawing a blank on one, so. And I can give you time to think.
I guess, like, what I'm saying is the mindset of putting something together because you know internally that it's cute or engaging, but not creating it from your mindset of, well, it's cute, but what's the point? Like, you know, like, we already know that people that we send it to that work for us are going to think it's cute. But just because it's cute, it doesn't fit an external audience.
Sure.
You know, strategy.
Yeah.
So, but I know both needs are there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you're working with a smaller department, it's like, is there a good way to double dip?
Right.
I'm like, well, I'm getting this message through, so both audiences will understand it the same way, and I'll get the same kind of engagement.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of different ways we could answer that. Obviously, the thing that I would lean on is, why is this important to my audience? Why do they care? Looking at that from the broader message that we're trying to establish, right? So are we, who are we as an organization that we want people to know about? And then what kind of content is doing well, right? So, you know, earlier I said shorter, right? That's what things are favoring. But it's kind of not that. It's kind of what is good. So if I know that I have good content coming from you, I don't care how long it is. So the example that I might give is, okay, so we've got somebody's 102nd birthday, right? Our internal audience wants to see, I couldn't make the event, I want to see Sister Armstrong's 102nd birthday cake, whatever, right? And on the outside, I'm telling you, I do not care about Sister Armstrong's 102nd birthday. It does not matter to my life at all. But if I got you know, a lengthy caption that was like an interview or some words of wisdom or something that was valuable on its, like, objectively valuable, the thing that would be interesting is like, hey, here's insights from a 102-year-old. That I care about. An old person I don't know, I don't care about. But then, again, you being there, I'm assuming, or you have access to this person, you could ask them, hey, here's the post that I want to make. You're showing the picture to your internal audience, and for your outward audience, you're saying, hey, we are a pillar of wisdom, or we have we're still offering something to our community. Here's how you can engage us. We're thought leaders in this particular way because we have this thing. So it's kind of looking at what you have and, like our keynote was like, what's the framework that we're going to put this in? And I know it's not always going to be that simple and cut and dry and easy, but that's kind of, again, like there's a million ways you could answer that, and that's kind of what I'm thinking right now.
Internally, you're sharing information, but externally,
right.
You're putting something out there that's explaining why you're sharing.
Yeah, so he said internally you're sharing information, and externally you're sharing that why, more of the why. I teed up the question about talking to your, okay, show of hands, who is outsourcing their video to a freelancer or maybe another user? I got 2 hands. So please tell me, how are you creating your video content? Okay, we talked before. Do you mind hopping on the mic? Looking at you, yes, ate breakfast together. Yes, thank you. You're going to be our person on the mic. So field your responses through her, because I don't expect you to have to know everything, okay? Because I know your situation is a little bit different. But you said, what was your response to how you're making video? I said, how are you making your video content? And what did you say?
Over breakfast or now?
No, right now, sorry.
Oh, I said we're not having a lot of content.
Okay, wait. Okay,
so
what I thought
in
you
my
said.
situation, I geographically am far away from the mission sites.
Yeah.
So we get people that send them in, but I'm not doing a lot directly.
Is anybody
Probably
else have
5
that same
times a
situation?
year.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I do it directly about 5 times a year, I'd say.
Okay.
Gather the video.
How many people are dealing with that scenario? A couple. Somebody else have a different scenario? How are you getting content if you're not making it or you're not outsourcing it? Come on up to the mic. Thank you.
So what I have been doing lately is when we have something that's ongoing, like a Taze service, for instance, I created a promotional video for that, but along the way, any B-roll or any of that, we've collected, and it could be like 5 days worth of footage, and so we reuse all of that for different purposes and re-engaging people. So I've done many different commercials for our congregation, so I've repurposed the videos for those, and I continue to use it. So
yeah, that sounds like that's working well.
yes.
That's good. Maybe some inspo for other people. In terms of getting content from people or relying on your audience, or maybe the thing that people gave was that their person that they've hired is not good, or maybe you have somebody that's kind of assumed that role. They're like, oh, well, I've got a little extra time and I want to kind of stretch my wings over here, so I'm going to make a video. And it's like, oh no, this person's terrible. I think there's 2 things. It's all about education, right? And that's going to vary, right, depending on this person's role. So, for your example, where you're kind of just getting a mishmash of everything, maybe having some standards. Hey, this has to be recorded in this format, has to be vertical or horizontal, right? Whatever the need is. And people will start to understand, I think, hopefully that they understand a little bit better now, because that is kind of everybody kind of gets it. And maybe having, again, some rules in place for, hey, if you're going to be doing an interview, make sure you're not next to a freeway, or make sure that you're facing a nice background, and that, that's subjective, but having the person in focus, which you'd think would be easy, but isn't always the case. So having those rules, instead of just throwing it at somebody and saying, hey, can you handle this? Or hey, can you just give me whatever you have? Really investing in that relationship to say, hey, here's what we need, and here's how we can accomplish this. To the point about sisters not wanting to participate, a conversation that we had before was about the quality, right? We think, oh, well, it's always an afterthought. I have my own production business, and it's always an afterthought no matter where you are. And we would never put some unedited blog out or some unedited article out, but we're totally fine to do that with our video. There is a level of professionalism that we have to have, and explaining that to leadership or whoever's in charge and saying, look, this doesn't make us look good, and while we might not be best equipped to do it, it is being valued very highly across the internet. So for us to say, afterthought, oh my gosh, I have this super lengthy video with no hook in the beginning, you're doing yourself a disservice. For what? Because you know, again, I get it. Everybody's got different things. They don't want to be on camera, whatever, but we have to make that case for ourselves that this is what is valuable now. It's not necessarily the written word all the time. Go ahead.
So I just wanted to share a quick tip. When I get video from sisters, I will film as much as I possibly can myself, but we have sisters in Connecticut where I'm based, so I will film all of those shots of our sisters in Connecticut. But we have sisters here in St. Louis, in Florida, Pennsylvania, New York. So if I'm needing those sisters to be on camera, I explain very clearly, yes, what I need, horizontal, crucifix up. I kind of use that as an example. But I have also literally filmed myself showing
interesting.
them what I'm looking for.
That's fun.
And that helps a lot.
Sure, yeah,
so,
having examples.
You can, type it all out and it makes sense to you, but not everybody reads a complete email. So if you provide that visual, it's been so helpful. So I just wanted to share that.
And I think that's great. Absolutely, having an example is huge. I think a lot of I wanted to stay away from like technical stuff or things like that. There's a million videos and blogs and stuff about all that really technical stuff that's a search away. So if you don't want to be on camera, you can easily find a video on like, hey, here's 3 best practices or whatever. I know there was a question right before you. I don't know if you.
Not a question.
Okay.
Not a question, but I have some out of the box.
Oh,
tips
great.
of
Let's hear it.
Things that I do.
Yeah.
If I really need to have a sister on camera, I will Zoom with them. I will adjust the lighting. Yeah, I'll adjust the lighting. I'll have them make sure that, they're not sitting here with the thing. I'll be, turn in. So I'll get some good light. I can do a lot. I can also control the audio. I can get an interview. I have a horizontal image. So I use that a lot. I do a lot of work where I might interview a sister and then only use the audio. And then I do a lot of Ken Burns effects. So I just want to encourage everyone to use photography, because even if you're doing a reel or a story, you can have that image slowly move. You're getting a moving image. You can also make images move quickly to get a lot of dynamic movement. So you have other things available to you besides worrying about shooting. And shooting has so many complications that I call myself, I'm a compositor. I will cut things out and stick them over other things, and so much of that can be done in Canva now. And also the tools, Canva is incorporating a lot of AI type things for removing backgrounds. So this stuff, composting is becoming easier because the tools are becoming more available to people.
Yeah. Sounds like you wanted to expand on that point.
I was just going to say that also. We had just an example. I work remotely. I work for 2 organizations, but the main one is the Sisters of Charity Federation, and there's 14 congregations across North America, so many in Canada and so many in the U.S. So everything's remote. So getting content, Zoom has helped greatly, because sisters who are very hesitant to create a video themselves, even if they have the equipment, like the phone or whatever, I'll say, well, sister, I'll just set up a Zoom and you and I will talk, and then I edit it, and it's been working really well. We did it 25 years at the UN celebration for the NGO, for the Sisters of Charity Federation, and I had to interview the four of the sisters who were former NGO representatives, and I mean, it was quite a lot of work, because we had these 30-minute conversations that I had to edit down to 3 or 4 minutes. Yeah. And I mean, I'm a photojournalism major. I graduated from college in '91. The internet wasn't a thing. The photo lab was still, chemicals and, you know,
Right.
that was my, and if someone had ever told me you will be editing video in your future life, I would have been like, yeah, right. And now it's just what we do.
Yeah, of
I mean,
course.
it's just become, especially during COVID, I do video all the time now. It's
Yeah.
just the thing. But Zoom does help with the remote.
Yeah, I think to your point before about getting creative and using video, photo, I saw there was a national grocery store advertising on Instagram. It's all photos. They're moving quickly, and there might be music under it, or maybe it's on mute, so I've never heard. But that's all they're doing, and it wasn't super hard. It was like one giant image and then 3 smaller images. So playing around with your graphic design, getting a little bit creative with how you're using people's voices. Maybe you've got, just allowing yourself to create in that space. Again, thinking about like if you have an event and you don't have anybody there to take video, maybe you're, again, thinking ahead of time, okay, how am I going to do this? What are the pieces that we're going to create from the event that are going to serve our broader goal? Yes.
Just a quick tip for the Zoom users. I used to have to do a lot of video work with medical personnel all around the world, and when we would want to get creative and make sure they had either consistent backgrounds, with our logo, or we wanted it to look like, they're sitting by a fireplace.
Oh, really?
We would just get on Amazon and buy a green screen and have it shipped to them, and because they're inexpensive. They're not expensive at all. We would have them set up a green screen behind them so that you can use really professional backgrounds, so it's not pixelated and that kind of stuff. So just a tip if you're trying to do something a little more professional on Zoom.
Sure. Thank you. Okay, my time is wrong over here, so I thought we had so much more time, and we're basically out of time. So I have one thing that I want to leave you with. Oh, can you just go back to my final slide? I'm sorry. I wanted us to, 26, please. I wanted us to be able to all do this together. Again, I thought I had so much more time, and I ran out, sorry. I mentioned batch contenting. This is fine. You can do it at when you go back home. And you can look it up, do some more research on your own, but what it is I kind of mentioned it before. You want to simplify the process of creating content. And so instead of having to create individual pieces, you kind of let them flow from one place. So you need to start with your marketing plan. What are you trying to do? What message are you trying to put out there? And who is your audience? You have to do the work ahead of time so that you know, okay, cool. I need X amount of photos, X amount of video, I need the blog post, whatever. Because if you skip that part, which is the hard work, right? If you don't have your pillars of what are we trying to do and who are our audiences and stuff, and you just go to the fun part of like coming up with all the ideas and stuff, you're gonna do yourself a disservice when months down the line, you're like, okay, why am I doing that? I face that a lot. I'm like, somebody's asking me for something, but why do they want that? Because video? That doesn't help us really. So you have to start with, what is the purpose of this? Why are our audiences gonna care about that? Then you can brainstorm, what is our content? And again, it's sort of like a reverse pyramid. You've got the long form stuff up here, and then you've got the little smaller medium-sized bites, and then you've got the really tiny, and the example that I'll give is, if you're gonna do a 30-minute interview with somebody, write your blog post based on the transcript of that interview. Don't send somebody else in there to do another thing, just do them at the same time, and then find little clips to be posted out. Okay, so again, I would look up content batching. You can go much deeper into this. I wanted us to do an exercise, I'm so sorry. So, and then you can kind of figure out your post schedule from there. Okay, thank you everyone.